Give yourself 6 months to change everything. 6 months. It does not sound like much. It slips by in traffic, in meetings, in mindless scrolling. Half a year disappears and we barely notice because we are not awake. Because somewhere between survival and routine, we gave up on the idea that life could still change. But let me tell you something only the broken ones understand. 6 months can feel like a lifetime when you are desperate. When you are tired of pretending. When you lie in bed and your heart feels hollow and heavy at the same time. When you look around and nothing resembles the life you once dreamed of, 6 months becomes a lifeline. A dare. I final cry into the wind asking, is there still time for me? I remember the night I first whispered those words to myself. Not out loud. Not in some dramatic scene. Just a whisper in my mind as I sat alone, pretending to be fine. The world did not see it, but I was falling. My confidence had turned to dust. My ambition was buried under bills and broken promises. I was exhausted not from doing too much, but from doing the wrong things for too long. That night something broke inside me. And in that brokenness, I heard something else rise, a whisper that was not desperation, but defiance. What if you gave yourself 6 months? Just 6 months to see what could happen if you stopped quitting on yourself. There is something mystical about the human soul. It knows when it is time. And sometimes, it sends you a quiet invitation disguised as rock bottom. Most people ignore it. They think pain is something to survive, not something to build from. But if you are reading this, perhaps you already feel it. The ache. The readiness. The tiny spark that says it is not too late. That is what this book is. Not a guide. Not a sermon. A contract between your pain and your potential. An agreement that for the next 6 months, you will stop waiting and start becoming. That you will stop hoping and start creating. That you will stop hiding and start showing up like the future you believe in. What changes everything is not the time. It is who you become inside that time. Most people try to change circumstances. But circumstances are echoes. They reflect your standards, your patterns, your expectations. If you do not change your inner world, your outer world will keep repeating itself with different faces and different names. The real shift, the one that shakes the earth beneath your life, comes from deciding that you will never again tolerate what you have been tolerating. That is the power of 6 months. It is short enough to stay focused, and long enough to become someone new. Do not let the simplicity fool you. This is not about quick fixes or morning routines. This is war. A war against apathy. Against distraction. Against the seductive pull of who you used to be. Change begins when you stop negotiating with your excuses. When you look in the mirror and say, I am not who I was, and I refuse to stay here. That moment of ownership, of full and brutal honesty, is the ignition. It is where pain transforms into purpose. Where shame gives way to resolve. Where fear becomes fuel. You will be tempted to wait for the perfect time. For clarity. For support. But none of that will come until you commit. Life responds to boldness. You do not get strength and then take action. You take action, and the strength appears. The people you need will come. The answers will come. But only after you move. Give yourself 6 months to move like you already believe. 6 months of showing up like it is already happening. 6 months of refusing to play small, even when you are scared. This journey is not about perfection. You will fall. You will doubt. You will feel like giving up. That is part of the contract. What matters is that you get back up faster each time. That you stop making failure personal and start making it powerful. That you learn to see setbacks as training, not punishment. Every version of you that has failed in the past was trying to survive. Now, You are choosing to live. Let me be clear, this will not be easy. Growth hurts. Truth hurts. But regret hurts more. The cost of staying the same is silent and steady. It drains your joy, your energy, your belief. And one day, you wake up numb. You stop dreaming. You stop reaching. That is what we are avoiding. Not discomfort, but decay. Because if you do not change, nothing else will. No book. No coach. No miracle. 6 months from now, you will arrive somewhere. The question is, will it be by design or by default? The philosophy of this book is simple, but it will demand everything from you. Radical responsibility. Ruthless honesty. Relentless action. You are not here to fix a few things. You are here to become unrecognizable. To rebuild your character, your standards, your presence. To stop being a visitor in your own life and start taking ownership of every inch of it. That is the invitation. Not to tweak your habits, but to reinvent your identity. There is a version of you that already exists in your imagination. The one who walks with clarity, who speaks with power, who wakes up with purpose. That version is not a fantasy. It is a blueprint. It is your soul remembering who you were before the world taught you to shrink. And the fastest way to become that person is not to wait, but to act like them now. What would they do today? What would they say no to? What would they no longer allow? This is where we begin. In the raw, uncomfortable, sacred space between who you are and who you could be. In the tension between your past and your future. In the decision to finally become the author of your own transformation. No one is coming to save you. But that is the best news you will ever hear, because it means you are the one with the pen in your hand. And 6 months from now, you can write a completely different story. Chapter 1. From numbness to now. There is a quiet kind of pain that most people carry. It is not loud or visible. It does not scream in public or leave scars others can see. It is the ache of numbness, the slow fading of desire, the silencing of dreams, the shrinking of the self. You wake up and you do what you must. You answer emails. You check boxes. You smile when expected. But deep down, something is missing. Something essential. The fire. The meaning. The pulse that once made you feel alive. That is the first place we begin, not with motivation, but with truth. Not with goals, but with the confession that somewhere along the way, you stopped living and started maintaining. The reason this numbness feels so heavy is because you were not made to survive. You were made to create, to build, to stretch. When your soul is denied growth, it begins to close in on itself. You start to settle for less, not because you believe it is enough, but because you forget what more felt like. That is the tragedy of a life unlived. You get used to it. You call it adulthood. You decorate the cage and call it stability. But deep down, you know. You feel it at night when the distractions fade. You feel it in conversations that do not feed you. You feel it every time you remember who you used to be before life told you to calm down. That is how most people get stuck. Not through failure, but through forgetting. Forgetting their power. Forgetting their hunger. Forgetting that life is not a waiting room, it is a stage. Every day you either perform the role you were told to play or you write your own script. And most never pick up the pen. They wait. For permission. For certainty. For signs. But the truth is, nothing changes until you do. Your future does not come find you. You go meet it, with trembling hands and a determined heart. And the first step is waking up from the numbness, not by screaming, but by choosing. Choosing to feel again. To care again. To want again. That is where transformation begins, not with a perfect plan, but with a real decision. A moment where you finally say, I am done tolerating a life that does not light me up. That one sentence, said with honesty, has more power than any affirmation. Because it comes from pain. And pain, when acknowledged, becomes purpose. The moment you let yourself feel it, not suppress it, you start to see what must change. And from there, everything is possible. The human spirit is incredibly resilient. It will endure so much before it breaks. But it will not thrive until it feels alignment, until it sees itself again. That is why change starts inside. Not with tasks, but with truth. You must look in the mirror and stop explaining your numbness. Stop justifying your delay. Stop pretending you do not care. You do. That is why it hurts. You still believe there is more. That belief is sacred. Protect it. Feed it. Use it. Because it is the only thing stronger than fear. Fear is what has held you here. Fear of failing again. Fear of being seen. Fear of being too much or not enough. But, let me tell you something, fear is not a sign to stop. It is a sign you are on the edge of something real. Fear always shows up when freedom is near. It does not mean turn back. It means lean in. Because the life you want is on the other side of that fear. And the only way out is through. You do not conquer fear by waiting for it to leave. You conquer it by walking with it anyway. When you begin this journey, the world around you might not change right away. But you will. You will feel it in small ways first. You will say no to something that used to own you. You will wake up earlier, not because you must, but because you want to. You will begin to clean the space around you, not just physically but emotionally. You will stop entertaining things that drain you. You will notice when you are shrinking, and you will stop mid-sentence. You will begin to remember who you were before the numbness. And the people around you will feel it. Some will celebrate it. Others will question it. Change makes people uncomfortable. Your growth will threaten their comfort. Not because you are wrong, but because you are becoming. Stay the course. This is not about them. It is about you. You have lived too long inside the opinions of others. This is your 6 months. Your mountain. Your mirror. Take it back. Start with one honest morning. Wake up and ask yourself, what would I do today if I were not afraid? One step. One action. Do not wait for motivation. Build discipline. Do not wait for results. Build consistency. And when you feel like nothing is changing, remember the biggest shifts happen in silence. In unseen moments. In the daily decision to not go back. You do not need to know how the next 6 months will unfold. You only need to know this: you will no longer abandon yourself. That is the vow. That is the start. Everything else will follow. You will learn. You will adapt. You will rise. But only if you begin now. No more waiting for the perfect time. It is already here. This is your call back to life. To presence. To purpose. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. Chapter 2. From ruin to rebuild. There is a quiet day that comes after the storm. A moment when you wake up, and the chaos has stopped, but the silence is heavier than the noise. This is the morning after heartbreak, the week after losing your job, the year after burying a dream. It is not loud anymore. It is just empty. You look around at what is left, and the truth hits you: something ended. And now you are the only one left to decide what comes next. That is the power of ruin. It leaves you with a blank page, a cracked foundation, a choice. You can sit in the rubble and replay what went wrong. Or you can gather the bricks one by one and begin the rebuild. Most people fear the fall. They dread failure, loss endings. But what they do not realize is that sometimes breakdown is the only path to breakthrough. Life does not always whisper. Sometimes it breaks what no longer serves you because you refuse to let go. It shatters illusions, dismantles ego, removes the crutches you were leaning on, so you are forced to find your strength. That job you lost, that relationship that collapsed, that version of you that no longer fits. It all felt cruel. But what if it was kind? What if life was not punishing you, but preparing you? You will not rebuild until you see ruin for what it is, an invitation. An invitation to stop living from borrowed beliefs and begin creating a foundation that is yours. Not what your parents taught you. Not what your friends expect. Not what culture demands. Yours. What do you really believe about love, work, success, worth? Most people never ask. They inherit scripts. They perform roles. And when life tears down the set, they panic. But you get to write your own. Rebuilding begins with excavation. You must dig into the roots of your life and ask, where did I learn this? Who taught me that I had to be perfect to be loved? Who told me my worth was in my productivity? Who convinced me that dreams were only for the lucky? You must find the lies you lived by and drip them out like weeds. This is not easy. It will hurt. You will grieve old versions of yourself. You will mourn the beliefs that once kept you safe. But once they are gone, you will breathe deeper. You will see clearer. You will feel lighter. The second phase is creation. This is where you ask, who do I want to be? Not in theory, but in reality. What do my days look like? What do I tolerate? What do I celebrate? This is not a vision board exercise. This is construction. Real work. Real decisions. If you want peace, you must build boundaries. If you want purpose, you must design your days with intention. If you want love, you must open your heart again, even if it was broken. Even if you are still bleeding. Healing and building can happen at the same time. This is where many people give up. Because rebuilding is not glamorous. It is not dramatic. It is not a highlight reel. It is ordinary choices made daily. It is saying no when it is easier to say yes. It is waking up when you want to hide. It is doing the work when no one is watching. That is why 6 months can change everything, because it forces you to commit to the process, not the performance. You are not here to impress. You are here to become. And you will. Slowly, quietly, faithfully. You will begin to feel proud of yourself, not because everything is fixed, but because you showed up anyway. You will see progress, not in big leaps, but in subtle shifts. The way you speak to yourself. The way you walk into a room. The way you handle rejection without crumbling. These are signs of strength. These are the bricks of a new foundation. Some days, it will feel like nothing is working. You will doubt the process. You will want to go back to the old life, the old habits, the old comfort. But do not. Stay. Stay with yourself. Stay with your vision. Stay with the small wins. Because momentum builds. And over time, what was once fragile becomes fierce. What once felt impossible becomes instinct. The secret is consistency. Not perfection. Not speed. Just presence. Just integrity. You do what you say you will do. You show up when you say you will show up. You build trust with yourself. And that trust becomes the foundation for every future breakthrough. When you know that you will not abandon yourself again, everything changes. Confidence returns. Courage grows. Direction appears. And here is the most beautiful part: as you rebuild, you begin to attract things that match your new foundation. Healthier relationships. More aligned opportunities. Deeper peace. Not because you forced them, but because you became someone who is ready for them. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of your identity. Change that, and everything else must follow. So if you are standing in the ruins right now, do not rush to escape it. Breathe. Feel. Honor the pain. Then, slowly, start gathering what remains. You do not need a full plan. You just need the next brick. And then the next. Over time, the structure rises. Not just a better life, but a better you. You are not rebuilding who you were. You are becoming who you were meant to be. Chapter 3. From delay to decision. There is a lie so subtle, so seductive, that it traps even the most intelligent hearts. It whispers, not yet. Soon. Later. It is the voice of delay, disguised as logic, caution, timing. It tells you to wait until you are ready, until the stars align, until you feel confident. And so you wait. Days turn to weeks. Weeks turn to years. You still call it planning, but the truth is you are hiding. Because deep down, you are not waiting for the right moment. You are avoiding the weight of a real decision. We are trained to postpone ourselves. Trained to believe that readiness is a destination. But readiness is not something you wait for. It is something you choose. No one feels ready the moment they step into change. Fear never leaves the room just because you made a decision. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move despite it. And the longer you wait, the more the delay becomes a prison. It becomes your new normal. Your identity becomes wrapped around hesitation, and eventually, you forget what decisiveness ever felt like. Why do people delay change? Because change costs something. It threatens your story. If you decide today to live with discipline, to pursue the dream, to speak the truth, then you lose the safety of your excuses. You lose the comfort of saying, I could have, if that is terrifying. So, we stay in the gray. Not failing, but not flying. Not miserable, but not alive. It is the most dangerous place to be, not in chaos, but in comfort. Because comfort is addictive. It gives you just enough peace to keep you from reaching for purpose. Let us be honest. You already know what you need to do. The hard part is not clarity, it is commitment. It is saying enough. Enough justifying. Enough analyzing. Enough dragging my feet through the same morning, the same choices, the same conversations. You do not need more information. You need to decide. Decision cuts. It severs you from the past. It creates a line you will not cross again. Most people never draw that line. They dabble. They flirt with change. But dabblers do not transform. They taste freedom, but they never feast on it. When you make a real decision, you feel it in your bones. You walk differently. You stop explaining yourself to people who do not understand. You stop auditioning for their approval. You stop looking backwards. That is the gift of decision. It creates motion. The universe does not respond to hesitation. It responds to energy. And energy flows where clarity lives. If you want to change your life in 6 months, this is the moment. Not later. Not when things calm down. Now. Look at your life. Look at the patterns. The habits. The relationships. The way you speak to yourself. The way you fill your time. Ask yourself, what am I tolerating that I would never advise someone I love to accept? That question will wake you up. It will break your justifications. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That is the beginning of decision, not from pressure, but from truth. There will always be a reason not to. Always something on your plate, in your way, on your mind. But reasons are just stories. And stories can be rewritten. You do not need the perfect strategy. You need a new story. One where you are not the victim of your circumstances, but the author of your comeback. One where you are no longer explaining your delay, but embodying your destiny. This does not mean everything will change overnight. It means you begin to live differently. You begin to act in alignment with your highest standard, not your lowest mood. You begin to measure your days not by what happened to you, but by how you responded. That is what separates those who change from those who complain. Action. Not someday, but now. Even when you are tired. Even when you are afraid. Especially then. Because each time you move in the direction of your decision, you build something deeper than confidence. You build identity. You become someone who follows through. Someone who leads themselves. And when that happens, something inside you settles. You stop doubting your power. You stop waiting for signs. You become the sign. Make no mistake, life will still test you. There will be days when the old version of you calls you back. When fear tells you to shrink, when fatigue tells you to stop. But now you will have a line. A decision. A promise you made to yourself, louder than the noise. That promise becomes your anchor. And on those hard days, you will remember, I chose this. I wanted this. I will not abandon myself again. Decision is not a 1-time event. It is a daily vow. You will have to choose again and again. Choose presence over distraction. Courage over comfort. Action over avoidance. But over time, those choices compound. They become momentum. They become mastery. And 6 months later, you will look in the mirror and see someone unrecognizable, not because they had more luck, but because they made the decision you kept postponing. So decide. Not next week. Not after you talk to someone. Not after you think it through again. Now. Choose your life. Choose your standard. Choose the person you are ready to become. Chapter 4. From hoping to becoming. Hope is a beautiful thing, but it is not a strategy. It lifts the spirit, yes. It gives us language when we are lost. But too many people confuse hope with action. They hope their life will change, their mind will heal, their circumstances will improve. And while they hope, days pass. Opportunities slip. Potential withers. Because the truth is, you cannot hope your way into a new life. You must build it. Brick by brick. Day by day. With resolve in your chest and fire in your bones. Hope opens the door. But only action walks you through it. We were raised to believe that someday it will all make sense. That things will just work out. That if we are kind enough, patient enough, good enough, life will reward us. But life does not answer to passivity. It bends to intention. It shifts when you shift. It blooms when you plant, water, and protect what matters. If you want a new life, you must stop being a spectator and become a sculptor. Get your hands in the clay. Sweat in the silence. Work while others wish. This is where transformation happens, not in grand gestures, but in unseen repetitions. People often wait for a sign. For alignment. For certainty. But nothing changes until you move. The power is in the becoming. In deciding that you will no longer be a visitor in your own story. That you will no longer shrink to fit spaces you have outgrown. That you will no longer wait to be chosen. You are not here to be discovered. You are here to uncover. To dig deep into who you truly are and become the miracle you have been begging the universe to send. You are the answer. not the one waiting. The one becoming. Becoming the kind of person who no longer settles for half minus love, half minus truths, half minus effort. Becoming the version of you that does not need permission to grow, to speak, to rise. Becoming someone who does not just survive storms, but builds shelter inside them. That is what this journey is about, not finding the light, but realizing it was always in you. But becoming costs. It will ask you to leave parts of you behind. The people minus pleasing. The self minus sabotage. The identity built around your wounds. It will feel like loss, but it is liberation. You cannot hold on to your old life and reach for your new one at the same time. At some point, you must unclench your grip and trust that what you are building is worth more than what you are leaving behind. That shift from hoping to becoming starts with a question: what am I waiting for? Truly. Is it more knowledge? More clarity? More support? Or is it just the fear of failing in public? The fear of starting again and being seen at zero? That fear is valid. But it is not final. Because every master was once a beginner. Every success story started with someone saying, "I do not know exactly how, but I am ready." And if you can say that with your whole heart, then you are further along than you think. Let today be the day you stop outsourcing your power. No more waiting for inspiration. No more needing validation. No more asking the world for permission to be great. You have it. You always did. The only question now is, what will you do with it? Will you use this 6-month window to wish and wait? Or will you rise and build? Because once you start becoming, the world changes its tone. People who once ignored you start to notice. Doors that were shut begin to open. Not because they changed, but because you did. You became someone who commands attention, who radiates purpose, who walks with the quiet strength of someone who is no longer begging life to be kind. You are not here for crumbs. You are here for the feast. And becoming is the ticket. It will not feel magical at first. It will feel like discipline, like discomfort, like doing the hard thing when the easy thing begs for your return. But stay with it. Stay with the sweat. Stay with the silence. Because becoming happens in the shadows long before it shines in the light. One day you will look back and realize you became the very thing you used to pray for. Chapter 5. From performing to owning. There comes a point in every person's life when they must choose between applause and alignment. When they must decide whether they want to be impressive or authentic. Many choose performance. They master the mask. They learn to say the right things, wear the right face, move through the world polished and polite. But under the surface they ache. Because performing is exhausting. Pretending is heavy. And living for approval is the slowest form of self-abandonment. We are taught early how to earn love. Be good. Be quiet. Be successful. Be agreeable. We learn to read the room, to edit ourselves, to shape shift into what others need us to be. And for a while, it works. We get the grades, the job, the compliments. But slowly, the gap widens. The gap between who we are and who we pretend to be. And if we are not careful, we forget which one is real. You can only perform for so long before the soul revolts. Before the body starts aching in strange places. Before the laughter feels forced and the dreams feel distant. That revolt is not a breakdown, it is a breakthrough. It is your soul demanding ownership. Ownership of your voice, your time, your life. That is the shift from performing to owning. From acting like you are okay, to building a life that actually is. Ownership begins when you stop blaming the audience. Stop blaming your parents, your past, your circumstances. They may have shaped your script, but you are the one who keeps reciting it. And the moment you say, "I will not perform this role anymore," something sacred happens. You begin to reclaim your agency. You begin to rewrite the narrative not for applause, but for alignment. This is not rebellion. It is remembrance. You are not becoming someone new. You are returning to who you were before the world told you who to be. Before you learned to dim your light. Before you equated worth with achievement. Ownership says, "I may not be where I want yet, but I will no longer lie about who I am." That is freedom. That is power. That is the foundation for everything real. But do not be fooled, this shift will cost you. You will lose approval. You will confuse people. You will walk away from roles that once gave you identity. You will disappoint those who only love the version of you that served them. Let them be disappointed. Let them leave. Because the people who truly see you will not need you to shrink, to edit, to explain. They will rise with you. And if you walk long enough in truth, your tribe will find you. The practical power of ownership is in your choices. In the way you speak up when it is easier to stay silent. In the way you say no without guilt. In the way you stop apologizing for your needs. Ownership is not loud. It is clear. It is not aggressive. It is grounded. It does not seek validation. It radiates conviction. And when you start to live this way, you begin to trust yourself again. Most people do not lack potential. They lack permission from themselves. They are waiting for someone to say, "It is okay to be who you are." But here is the truth, no one can give you that. You must give it to yourself. You must wake up and say, "Today, I will no longer shrink to fit comfort. Today, I will own my voice, my pace, my truth." And then you walk into the world as if you meant it. The shift from performing to owning is the heartbeat of transformation. Because once you own your life, no one can take it from you. You are no longer renting your worth. You are rooted. You are no longer chasing applause. You are building peace. You are no longer waiting to be seen. You are seeing yourself. And here is the miracle: when you stop performing, the world adjusts. New doors open. New people appear. Not because you forced them, but because you became a magnet for what aligns. Authenticity attracts what performance cannot. And that is when life begins to feel like yours, not a role, not a job, not a show. Yours. You did not come here to play a part. You came here to live a life. Chapter 6. From Wounded to Worthy. There is a silent story that lives in most people, a memory, a wound or regret that follows them like a shadow. They smile. They work. They keep going. But somewhere behind their eyes, behind their goals and to-do lists, is the whisper of not enough. It does not always shout. Sometimes it hides in perfectionism, in people-pleasing, in overachievement, in the need to always prove. But underneath, it is the same wound. A part of you still believes you are not worthy as you are. You can build an entire life on top of that wound. A successful one. But eventually, it leaks. It leaks into relationships, into decisions, into the way you speak to yourself when no one is listening. That is why surface changes never last. You can upgrade your habits, your schedule, your income, but if the wound remains unhealed, it will sabotage everything. Because the wound does not want more, it wants meaning. It wants to be seen, not silenced. You cannot outwork your unworthy ends. You cannot achieve your way out of shame. You must face it, feel it. And most terrifying of all, you must forgive it. Not because the pain was small, not because the past was fair, but because dragging it into your future will cost you everything. You forgive not to erase the wound, but to release its power. To say, "This happened, but it will not define me." That is the work of the worthy. To remember who they were before they were broken. Wounds do not heal by pretending they are not there. They heal by being held in honesty. You must speak the truth of what hurt you. The betrayal. The abandonment. The words you heard at 6 years old that still echo today. The moments that told you, you are too much or you are not enough. Say them. Write them. Bring them into the light. Because shame cannot survive exposure. The more you hide it, the more it grows. But the moment you own it, it begins to lose its grip. And then comes the choice: will you keep being the person who was wounded, or will you become the person who healed? That decision is everything. Because healing is not a return to the old self. It is the birth of a new one. A version of you that is no longer defined by what happened, but by what you decided to become in the face of it. Worthy does not mean perfect. Worthy means whole. It means you no longer reject pieces of yourself to fit a mold. It means you no longer chase love, you allow it. It means you no longer perform for belonging, you belong to yourself. That is the shift that changes everything. Because when you know you are worthy, you stop settling. You stop begging. You stop explaining your worth to people who benefit from your doubt. Some days, you will forget. The old voice will return. It will say, "Who do you think you are?" And on those days, you will stand taller. You will say, "I am someone who survived. Someone who stayed. Someone who chose to rebuild when it would have been easier to run." That is worth. Not in words, but in presence. In how you carry yourself. In how you treat yourself when no one is watching. Wounded people wait. They wait for closure. For apology. For someone to come back and undo the damage. But no one is coming. And that is not tragedy, that is freedom. Because it means you get to choose. You get to say, "It ends with me." The pain stops here. The silence stops here. The cycle stops here. Not because the past changed, but because you did. Healing is not a single moment. It is a daily devotion. A choice to live from truth, not trauma. A choice to see yourself through the eyes of compassion, not criticism. A choice to protect your peace like it is sacred, because it is. You are not your past. You are not your patterns. You are not the version of you that broke. You are the one who is still here. Still breathing. Still becoming. And that is enough. More than enough. Chapter 7. From Discipline to Destiny. Most people pray for a better life. They want more clarity, more confidence, more freedom. But when you look closely, what they are really asking for is relief, not transformation. They want the results of growth without the cost. They want to feel inspired, but they do not want to be inconvenienced. But life does not honor wishing. It honors discipline. Destiny is not a matter of fate, it is the harvest of what you sow when no one is clapping. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It protects your future from your moods, your dreams from your distractions, your purpose from your past. Most people resist discipline because they think it will take away their freedom. But the opposite is true. Undisciplined people are the least free. They are ruled by cravings, by emotion, by external chaos. Discipline creates structure, and structure creates peace. Peace is not passive, it is built. The first step to real discipline is honesty. Brutal, compassionate honesty. What do your habits really reveal? Not what you say you value, but what you actually prioritize. Look at your calendar. Look at your morning. Look at how you start and end your day. Are those patterns aligned with your highest self or with your comfort zone? This is not judgment. It is awareness. You cannot change what you refuse to see. People say they want clarity, but clarity comes from movement, not more thinking. You do not wait to feel motivated. You act. You do a thing when it is inconvenient, unglamorous, and repetitive. That is where the shift happens. In the middle of resistance, when you do not negotiate with your excuses, something awakens in you. You begin to realize, I am stronger than I thought. I can trust myself. I can do hard things consistently. That is the birth of character. Discipline is not about doing everything. It is about doing the essential things deeply and daily. It is waking up before the world demands your attention and deciding who you will be that day. It is protecting your time like it is your life, because it is. Every hour you waste is not just lost time, it is a delayed dream. Most people are not overwhelmed because they are doing too much. They are overwhelmed because they are doing too little of what truly matters. There will be days when discipline feels dry, when the results are invisible, when the mind screams for escape. On those days, you must remember that success is not about being the most talented, but the most consistent. It is not about intensity. It is about intention. Show up, even when you do not feel like it. Especially then. Because those are the reps that count. That is when you are building roots, not just branches. You must design your environment for discipline. Your surroundings should reflect your standards. Clean your space. Simplify your inputs. Reduce the friction between you and the action. If your phone owns your attention, it owns your potential. If your environment is chaotic, your mind will mirror it. Make your space sacred. Make your mornings intentional. Make your habits visible and your distractions expensive. Discipline also means saying no. Not just to bad things, but to good things that are not right for this season. Every yes has a cost. Every commitment steals energy from something else. You cannot become extraordinary if you are available for everything. Choose your battles. Choose your boundaries. Be ruthless with what you allow into your focus. Your future depends on it. Some people will not understand your discipline. They will call you obsessive, rigid, extreme. Let them. They do not see what you are building. They do not carry your vision. You do. And the moment you decide to live by your standard, not their comfort, is the moment you break free from average. You stop chasing balance and start creating alignment. And here is the irony: what begins as discipline becomes desire. What once felt hard becomes holy. You begin to crave the structure that once felt suffocating. You begin to trust the stillness that once felt boring. You begin to love the version of yourself that shows up again and again, even when no one sees. Because you see. And that self minus trust becomes unshakable. This is how you change everything in 6 months, not with hype but with habit. Not with motivation but with mission. Not with reaction but with ritual. You wake up, you act, you move with purpose. And one day, you look around and realize, I did not just survive, I sculpted a life. That is destiny. Not a dream you stumble into, but a life you discipline yourself to create. Chapter 8. From Attachment to Alignment. There is a weight many people carry, but few speak of. It is the weight of what no longer belongs. Old relationships. Outgrown identities. Dreams that once lit you up but now drain you. But because you loved them once, you hold on. Because they are familiar, you keep them near. Even as they shrink you. Even as they stall your becoming. You justify, you rationalize, you say, maybe it will change. But in your soul, you already know what once served you may now be silently sabotaging you. Attachment is not always love. Sometimes it is fear wearing love's clothes. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting again. Fear of who you might be without what has always defined you. But alignment asks a different question. Does this feed my future? Does this relationship, this habit, this belief make me more of who I am called to be or less? That is the turning point. When you stop asking if something is bearable and start asking if it is right. Letting go is not weakness. It is strength. It takes far more courage to walk away from what is comfortable than to stay unsettled. And yet, most people stay. In the job. In the friendship. In the identity that once made sense but no longer fits. They stay because change feels like loss. But what they forget is that staying too long is a slow kind of dying. A decay of joy. A decline in purpose. And eventually, a life half-minus lived. You must make peace with this truth. Growth requires grief. You will mourn the old you. You will cry over things you still care about. You will question yourself. But that grief is sacred. It is a funeral for who you no longer need to be. And if you walk through it fully, if you let yourself feel the loss without clinging, you emerge new. Not bitter. Not hardened. But free. And freedom is not found in having everything. It is found in needing less. In choosing what aligns, even when it is smaller, quieter, simpler. Alignment is peace. It is the feeling of being in the right place at the right time, even if no one else understands it. It is saying no to noise, so you can say yes to your soul. It is walking away not because it is easy, but because you are done betraying yourself to belong. Some of the hardest things to let go of are the identities we built to survive. The overvetchery. The caretaker. The strong one. These roles once kept us safe. But safety is not the same as allowance. And at some point, you must ask, am I still surviving, or am I ready to start living? The answer will not come through more thinking. It will come through release. Through the moment you finally drop the script and trust that what is true will remain. Letting go also means letting go of timelines. Of expectations. Of the story you told yourself about how it should have gone. It did not go that way. And maybe that is not a tragedy. Maybe it is a redirect. Maybe what felt like a detour was actually a deliverance. But you will not see it until you stop clinging to the plan that was never meant to carry you all the way. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to end things that no longer nourish you. You are allowed to walk away quietly, without announcement or explanation. Closure is something you give yourself. And peace is not found in answers, it is found in acceptance. This is your life. Not a performance. Not a contract. A living, breathing evolution. Treat it as such. One day, you will look back and thank yourself for what you released. For the courage it took to unclench your grip. For the strength it took to walk away with nothing but your integrity. That is when you will realize you never lost anything that was truly aligned with your highest path. You only lost what was blocking it. So, look around. What are you still holding on to out of fear, not faith? What would you let go of if you trusted that what is meant for you will not require you to sacrifice yourself? What would you leave behind if you believe that your future is not behind you? This is your call. Not to abandon everything, but to release what is not aligned. To create space for what is. To live with open hands, not clenched fists. You cannot carry your next level in the same bag that holds your last life. It is time to unpack. To unburden. To release. What you let go of today makes space for who you are meant to become tomorrow. Chapter 9. From hiding to honesty. There is a silence that lies beneath most leaves, a silence full of things unspoken. Not to others but to ourselves. The truths we avoid. The patterns we excuse. The lies we whisper just loud enough to believe. We hide not because we are dishonest, but because we are afraid. afraid that if we speak the truth, something will collapse. A relationship, a reputation, a sense of control. But what we do not realize is that the longer we hide, the more of ourselves we lose. Hiding is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like being busy. Sometimes it sounds like, I am fine. Sometimes it feels like a dream delayed until the time is right. But underneath all that noise is avoidance. Avoiding the conversation, the decision, the mirror. Because once we tell the truth, we must act on it or live in denial. And for many, denial feels safer. But safety is not the same as peace. You can be safe and still be suffocating. Honesty is where healing begins. Not public honesty. Personal honesty. Looking in the mirror and naming what is real. I am lonely. I am angry. I do not want this life anymore. I am not proud of who I have become. These are not confessions of failure. They are declarations of freedom. Because the moment you tell the truth, you stop running. And when you stop running, you can finally begin building. But honesty will cost you. It will break the illusions you have protected. It will expose the roles you have performed. It will challenge every reason you have given for why your life cannot change. That is why so few choose it. But if you are willing to walk into the fire of truth, you will emerge with something rare: alignment. Not perfection. Not performance. Alignment. Where your words match your actions. Where your choices reflect your values. Where your soul no longer has to whisper over your habits just to be heard. You cannot change what you refuse to confront. And confrontation is not always loud. Sometimes it is sitting with a journal and writing what you have been avoiding. Sometimes it is saying no to someone who is used to your yes. Sometimes it is walking away from what you begged for because you finally see it is not for you. That is honesty. And it is the foundation of every lasting transformation. People often fear honesty because they confuse it with shame. But truth is not here to shame you. It is here to shape you. To carve away what is false so what is real can rise. You cannot shame yourself into growth. You can only tell yourself the truth and love yourself forward. That is the sacred balance, fierce clarity, and deep compassion. You say, this must change, not because you are broken, but because you are ready. And once you start living from that place, everything shifts. You stop needing validation. You stop pretending. You stop explaining choices that come from your integrity. You become unshakable not because life gets easier, but because you are no longer hiding from yourself. That is the peace you have been craving. Not in results, but in honesty. Let me ask you this: what are you still hiding from? What truth would change your life if you dared to speak it out loud? What conversation are you avoiding with yourself, with someone else, with your past? That truth is your next door. Not the next book. Not the next plan. That truth. Because behind it is the clarity you seek. The confidence you miss. The courage you admire in others. It is not missing. It is buried under the lies you keep telling just to cope. But you are not here to cope. You are here to live. Fully. Boldly. Honestly. And that requires confronting the places you have gone numb. The stories you keep rehearsing. The standards you keep lowering just to avoid rocking the boat. Rock the boat. Truth does not drown you. It teaches you to swim. This is your turning point. The moment you stop hiding and start healing. Not with shame, but with surrender. Not with guilt, but with groundedness. You look yourself in the eye and say, this is what it is. This is what I choose. And I will no longer run from my own reflection. That kind of honesty. It makes you magnetic. It makes you powerful. Because nothing is more attractive than someone who has made peace with their truth. They do not need to impress. They do not need to defend. They simply show up fully alive, fully seen. You deserve that. Not someday. Now. Chapter 10. From Doubt to Devotion. Every dream stands at the edge of a cliff. And standing beside it is you, eyes wide open, heart pounding, calculating the distance between where you are and where you want to be. You look down and all you see is the fall. The risk. The exposure. The possibility that if you jump, you might crash. And that is when doubt speaks. It sounds like logic. It sounds like reason. But what it really is, fear, disguised in a tone you trust. Doubt never shows up when you are playing small. It waits. Waits until your soul begins to stretch. Until you say, maybe I can. That is when it whispers, but what if you cannot? And if you are not grounded, you will obey that voice. You will step back from the cliff. You will put the dream back on the shelf. You will shrink. And you will call it maturity. You will call it wisdom. But deep down, you will feel the ache of unlived potential. The opposite of doubt is not certainty. It is devotion. Devotion does not mean you know how it all ends. It means you show up anyway. It means you move, even when the path is foggy. It means you stay loyal to your highest self, not your deepest fear. Most people wait for clarity to commit. But clarity is born from commitment. You take the step. You do the work. You stay in attention. And then the clarity comes not because the path became easier, but because you became stronger. This is the shift that changes everything. When you stop asking, will it work, and start declaring, I will make it work, that shift removes you from the victim seat. It puts the pen back in your hand. And you begin to write a new chapter not with hope but with holy responsibility. You stop waiting to feel ready, and you decide to be ready. Not because you have all the tools, but because you have all the truth. Devotion is not about dramatic actions. It is about repeated alignment. You show up to the vision daily. You do the work, even when the results are invisible. You honor the process, even when progress feels slow. You stop trying to prove, and you start choosing to believe. That kind of energy shifts atmospheres. It magnetizes miracles. Because the world does not need more effort, it needs more belief behind the effort. The reason so many dreams die is not because people lack time, money, or talent. It is because they got tired of believing. They ran out of fuel. But belief is renewable. Devotion is the generator. When you stay close to your why, you never run dry. That is why 6 months can change everything, because 6 months of devoted action builds a version of you that doubt can no longer control. You will still feel fear. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are alive. Fear is the evidence that you are pushing into something real. But devotion teaches you how to walk with fear, not obey it. Not negotiate with it. Just walk with it. Let it ride in the back seat, but never let it touch the wheel. And here is the beautiful thing: when you stay devoted long enough, you begin to see signs. Small confirmations. A message you needed at the perfect time. A door you did not expect to open. A shift in your energy. A deep knowing that you are on the right path. These are not coincidences. They are echoes. Echoes of alignment. Echoes of becoming. Echoes of your inner world shaping the outer one. But you must stay long enough to receive them. Most people leave too soon. They plant the seed, water it for a week, and when they see no flower, they call it a failure. But you are not most people. You are here to endure the unseen season. to trust the silence, to believe in the root before the bloom. That is what separates those who dabble from those who transform. Devotion is a practice. Some mornings you will feel full. Some mornings you will feel empty. But you show up anyway. You say the words. You do the reps. You build the habits. Not because it is easy, but because it is yours. Your path. Your calling. Your legacy. And when doubt comes again and it will, you will not panic. You will remember. You will remember that you have walked this far already. That you did not get here by accident. That your dream is not random. It is assigned. It is written on your bones. And your only job is to stay devoted enough to see it come alive. That is faith. Not in a belief. In a becoming. Chapter 11. From drifting to driving. It is easy to lose yourself in the drift. One day blends into the next. You wake up, check your phone, do what is expected. You respond, react, survive. And before you realize it, weeks have passed and nothing has moved except time. Your goals are still on paper. Your clarity is still in question. Your soul is still whispering, this is not it. That is the danger of drifting. It is not painful enough to provoke, but just dull enough to sedate. You do not crash, you coast. Drifting is the slow death of destiny. It happens not because you are weak, but because you stop deciding. You stop designing. You let the world hand you your schedule, your habits, your emotions. And over time, your life stopped feeling like yours. That is what drifting steals: first ownership. Then it steals passion. Then it steals presence. The antidote to drifting is direction. But direction does not begin with a 5-year plan. It begins with one decision: I will no longer live by accident. I will no longer wait for motivation, or mood, or miracles. I will take the wheel. I will drive. Even if I do not know every turn, I will move. Because movement is how vision unfolds. You do not find purpose by standing still. You find it by choosing. Look around you. Every extraordinary life you admire is driven. Not by pressure, but by presence. These people are not busier. They are clearer. They know what they value. They know what to say yes to, and what to walk away from. That is the power of direction. It filters your life. It protects your time. It clarifies your energy. And you do not need a map to begin. You need a moment of resolve. Take back your mornings. Do not let your phone write your mind. Begin the day with your vision, your values, your voice. Take back your evenings. Do not let Netflix numb the ache of misalignment. Let it speak. Let it tell you what needs to shift. Let it guide you toward deeper meaning. Take back your attention. Stop scrolling through other people's lives and start building your own. This is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters. Focus is not a talent. It is a choice. And choices are the bricks of destiny. Stack enough intentional days, and you will not recognize yourself in 6 months. Not because you tried to impress anyone, but because you started honoring your design. Driving also means taking full responsibility. No more blaming circumstances. No more waiting for ideal conditions. If something is out of alignment, change it or leave it. That is your power. You are not a leaf in the wind. You are a creator. You are a force. And if you have forgotten that, it is only because you were taught to be polite instead of powerful. Power is not domination. It is direction. It is knowing what you want and moving toward it consistently, unapologetically. And when you start doing that, something shifts. The world begins to respond. Not because it suddenly loves you, but because you finally stopped drifting. You became magnetic not by chasing, but by choosing. You will not feel like it every day. That is normal. Driving is tiring. It asks more of you. It demands clarity and consistency. But it also gives you something the drift never will: agency. The deep, grounding, revolutionary knowing that your life is yours. That your time is sacred. That your potential is not theoretical, it is active, alive, available. You are not a victim of momentum. You are the engine. Start slow if you must. Start messy. But start. Begin today with a simple declaration: I choose to live awake. I choose to respond with purpose. I choose to be the one steering the wheel of my becoming. Because when you start driving, your life stops repeating. Chapter 12. From self-work to soul impact. At some point, transformation stops being just about you. It starts in solitude, yes. In silence and reflection, in personal resolve. But true growth always echoes. When you rise, you ripple. When you heal, you shift atmospheres. When you walk in your power, people around you start to remember theirs. That is the miracle of becoming. It multiplies. Your journey becomes more than personal. It becomes purposeful. It becomes sacred. The world does not need more noise. It needs presence. It needs people who have done the inner work, not for applause, but for alignment. People will walk into a room and do not demand attention, but change the energy by how grounded they are. People who no longer seek validation, because they are too busy embodying truth. That is soul impact. You do not chase it. You become it. For too long, you may have believed that the best way to help others was to fix them, to carry them, to convince them. But real power does not come from control. It comes from clarity. You become the example. You live the standard. You lead by being the evidence of what is possible. And that is what the people around you truly need: not more advice, but more authenticity. Not more preaching, but more presence. This is the transition few make from self-focus to soul service. You begin to see your transformation not just as a victory, but as a vessel. Every wound you have healed becomes a bridge. Every lie you have dismantled becomes a light. Every chain you have broken becomes a message. And you do not have to stand on a stage to share it. You just have to live it. When you speak now, it carries weight. Because it is not theory, it is testimony. You know what it feels like to lose yourself, to fight for yourself, to rise from what tried to break you. And that knowing cannot be faked. It radiates in how you carry yourself, in how you listen, in how you love, in how you refuse to shrink around smallness, not out of arrogance but out of reverence for what it took to become you. And this impact, it is quiet but radical. You will see it in the way your children watch you, in the way your friends begin to question their limits, in the way strangers feel safe to be honest in your presence. This is not charisma. This is congruence. You are no longer fragmented. You are whole. And wholeness is magnetic. This is the full circle of your 6-month journey. You started alone, but you end connected. Not dependent. Not enmeshed. But interwoven with the sacred truth that your healing was never just for you. It was for the version of you who needed to be believed in. And for every other soul who still does. The world changes one person at a time. And that person begins with you. The reset. Pause. Take a breath, not a shallow one, but a breath that reaches into the bottom of your lungs. The kind of breath you take before a new beginning. Because that is exactly where you are. You have come far not just in pages, but in presence. You have remembered pieces of yourself. You have burned old scripts. You have faced mirrors you once avoided. And now, you stand at the gate of embodiment. But before you walk through, you must reset. Not just your schedule. Your mindset. Most people do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because they never change the standard. They build new habits around old identities. They chase new outcomes with the same internal story. And so they stay stuck improving the shell, while the system beneath it remains untouched. This is your moment to break that loop. To set a new standard. To claim a new frequency. To stop asking, what do I need to do? So begin here. What will you no longer tolerate? Not just externally, but internally. Will you still tolerate half-minded commitments? Will you still allow small talk to take the place of real conversation? Will you keep allowing the lie that says you are behind to shape your pace? Or will you finally stand tall in the knowing that everything that broke you was only bending you into purpose? Write it down. Say it out loud. Draw the line. The new you does not beg. The new you does not chase. The new you does not entertain what drains. The new you is not reactive but rooted. Not busy but built. Not waiting but walking. Next, what do you now require of yourself? Not from guilt but from greatness. Do you require full presence in your relationships? Do you require space for your creativity? Do you require honesty over harmony, alignment over applause, excellence over convenience? You must be honest here. Not idealistic honest. This is not about what would look good on a vision board. This is about what will hold you when no one is watching. This is about the core agreements you will no longer break with yourself. Most people are loyal to everyone except themselves. They keep promises to others but abandon the ones they make in private. That ends here. From this moment on, you are the most trustworthy person in your life. When you say you will rise early, you rise. When you say you will show up with courage, you do. When you say you are done with the old story, you do not reread it at midnight just to feel something familiar. You are not the same. You cannot keep feeding the old you and expect the new you to thrive. There is no room for both. You must choose. You must grieve the comfort of being unseen. You must outgrow the illusion that staying quiet is safer. You must be willing to be misunderstood, misjudged, even mocked for the sake of the life you actually want to live. Reset also means remembering. Remembering what you once dreamed of before you were old to be realistic. Remembering the fire that flickered even on your darkest days. Remembering that your worth was never in question, only your willingness to claim it. And above all, remember, this is not the end. It is the threshold. 6 months is not a finish line. It is a foundation. You are not done becoming. You are just now beginning to live as the person who finally believes they can. This is your reset. Quiet. Deep. Unshakable. Now rise. The final call. You know now. You cannot unknow it. You have seen the truth in your own bones. You have stood in the ruins and remembered your strength. You have walked through fire, not because it was easy, but because something inside you refused to die quiet. And now, here you are, not fixed but forged. Not perfect but present. And that changes everything. This is no longer about change. This is about embodiment. Because what you do not embody, you will eventually abandon. This is why so many people relapse into the lives they once escaped. Not because they are weak, but because they never became the person their new life required. They upgraded their habits, but not their identity. They spoke new affirmations, but still carried old beliefs. That ends here. You are not someone trying to become, you are someone who already is. You are the standard now. You are the message now. You are the evidence now. So walk like it. Speak like it. Move like it. Make decisions from the future, not from the wounds. Make love from wholeness, not from hunger. Make time for what matters, not for what is loud. Because every day is no longer just a day, it is a declaration that you have returned to yourself, that you are no longer waiting to be chosen, that you choose yourself every morning without apology. There will still be days when the old life calls you back, when comfort invites you in, when chaos feels oddly familiar. On those days, do not panic. Remember, you are not starting over. You are simply remembering. Remembering who you are. Remembering why you left. Remembering the life you said yes to when no one else understood it. This journey was never about proving anything. It was about reclaiming everything. Your voice. Your power. Your peace. Your fire. Your right to live a life that feels like yours. And do not let anyone tell you 6 months is not enough. 6 months of full commitment can eclipse 6 years of half-minus living. 6 months of deep, aligned action can undo decades of delay. 6 months of ruthless self-minus trust can rewrite your entire story. But only if you show up like it is non-minus negotiable. Only if you stop playing small. Only if you stop needing every step to be perfect before you take it. You do not have time to waste in hesitation anymore. This is your window. This is your moment. This is your chance. What happens next is not a mystery. It is a reflection of what you decide, of what you do, of who you are now ready to become. So go. Not with fear. Not with doubt. Go with fire in your chest and peace in your eyes. Because you are no longer hoping for transformation. You are the transformation. And the world is waiting to feel it.